Before we jump into today's story, if you love emotional Afro-Korean dramas filled with shocking twists, unforgettable romance, and powerful endings, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. Now, let's begin. The wheelchair slammed into the marble floor as Kang Tae-jun hurled a glass vase across the room. "Get out!" he roared. The terrified caregiver stumbled backward, tears streaming down her face. "I was only trying to help." "I said get out." She fled without looking back. The heavy doors shut behind her, leaving silence hanging over the mansion. One bodyguard sighed. "That's the 7th caregiver this month." Another folded his arms. "At this rate, the boss will fire everyone before he recovers." He isn't recovering. Those words settled over the room like a curse. 6 months earlier, Kang Tae-jun had ruled Seoul's underground world without mercy. One carefully planned ambush had changed everything. A sniper's bullet, followed by a brutal car crash, had left the feared Mafia boss unable to walk. His enemies celebrated. His allies whispered. His own men began wondering whether their king was still fit to rule. Since then, Tae-jun had become colder than ever. He trusted no one, tolerated nothing, and made life miserable for anyone assigned to care for him. His right-hand man, Min-hyuk, rubbed his forehead. "If we don't find someone today, the doctor will stop coming. No caregiver wants this job anymore." One guard laughed bitterly. Who in their right mind would? Before Min-hyuk could answer, the front doors burst open. A young woman walked inside, pulling 2 worn suitcases behind her. She wore faded jeans, white sneakers, and a bright yellow hoodie that seemed completely out of place inside the dark mansion. Thick natural curls framed her face, and a pair of headphones rested around her neck. She looked around. "So, this is the place?" The guards stared. One whispered, "She can't be serious." The woman smiled. "I'm Naledi Dlamini." Nobody moved. She looked at the silent faces and laughed. "Should I introduce myself again? Or does everyone here just enjoy staring?" One guard stepped forward. "You're the new caregiver? Last time I checked. You know who lives here? I read the file. And you're still here?" Naledi shrugged. "I've worked with stubborn patients before." Another guard smirked. "You have no idea what you're walking into." "Maybe." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. "But quitting before meeting him feels rude." The guards exchanged confused looks. Min-hyuk walked toward her. "Miss Dlamini, you must be the serious one." "I'm Min-hyuk." She offered a handshake. He hesitated before shaking it. "You've been told about Mr. Kang's condition." "I have." "You've also been warned about his temperament." "I have." And I signed the contract." Min-hyuk searched her face for fear. He found none. Instead, she smiled. "So, where's my patient?" "Upstairs." Tae-jun stared through the window without speaking. He heard footsteps outside. Another one. He didn't bother turning around. "I told Min-hyuk, I don't want another caregiver." Naledi leaned against the doorway. "I heard." "Then leave." "No." His jaw tightened. "What did you say?" "I said no." For the first time that morning, Tae-jun turned. The woman standing in his doorway wasn't frightened. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't bowing. She looked almost amused. "I don't repeat myself often," he said coldly. "That's okay. I listen well. You have 10 seconds. She checked an imaginary watch. 9. He glared. 8. His eyes narrowed. 7. Stop counting. She grinned. "I knew you'd interrupt." Outside the room, 2 guards looked at each other. "She's dead." "Definitely." Inside, Tae-jun wheeled himself closer. "You think this is funny?" "No." "Then why are you smiling?" "Because angry people hate smiling faces." "I'm not angry." "You threw a vase 5 minutes ago. That was different." It smashed the same way every angry person's vase smashes. For a brief second, Tae-jun didn't know how to respond. Nobody spoke to him like this. Nobody dared. He pointed toward the door. "Leave." Naledi walked farther into the room instead. I'll unpack first. You don't listen. I do. Then why are you ignoring me? Because sometimes patients don't know what's good for them. The room fell silent. Even the guards outside stopped breathing. Tae-jun's voice became dangerously calm. Do you know who I am? Yes. What am I? A man in a wheelchair. His expression darkened. I was asking about my position. Oh, she nodded thoughtfully. I still think my answer works. His fists clenched around the wheels. You've got courage. My grandmother called it stubbornness. You should be afraid. I've been afraid before. She met his eyes. It didn't improve my life. Something in her voice made him pause. Not sadness. Experience. Before he could ask another question, she noticed several untouched food trays stacked near the balcony. How long has that food been sitting there? None of your business. She picked one up. It's cold. I know. You didn't eat. I wasn't hungry. She rang the service bell. Within seconds, a maid entered. Please warm this up. The maid looked horrified. I need the boss's permission. Naledi looked at Tae-jun. I'm giving you a chance to agree. No. She smiled at the maid. Warm it anyway. The maid froze. Tae-jun laughed bitterly. You've been here 5 minutes. And? You're already giving orders. I'm doing my job. My job is firing you. After lunch. I mean now. You'll need energy for that. The maid couldn't hold back a tiny laugh. Everyone turned toward her. She immediately covered her mouth. Tae-jun noticed it. Nobody laughed in this mansion anymore. Not until today. Naledi looked around. This place feels like a funeral. It isn't. It could use music. No. She pulled out her phone. Seconds later, upbeat African music filled the room. Several guards blinked. One almost smiled. Tae-jun looked horrified. What is that? A good mood. Turn it off. No. I hate noise. I noticed. She continued organizing the room while humming along with the music. For reasons he couldn't explain, Tae-jun watched her instead of shouting. She moved as though she belonged there. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't trying to please him. She simply acted like another human being sharing the same room. It irritated him. It also confused him. Downstairs, Min-hyuk frowned as another guard rushed toward him. Sir, what happened? The new caregiver. What about her? She made the boss stop yelling. Min-hyuk blinked. How? I honestly don't know. At that exact moment, hidden in the security room beneath the mansion, a masked figure watched the surveillance cameras. The stranger zoomed in on Naledi's smiling face. So, they found someone different. A gloved hand reached for a phone. Change of plans. A cold voice answered from the other end. Should we eliminate her? The masked figure didn't hesitate. If she stays close to Kang Tae-jun, she dies. The call ended. Upstairs, completely unaware that someone had already marked her for death, Naledi placed the warm meal in front of Tae-jun. You should eat. He folded his arms. I said I'm not hungry. She calmly picked up a spoon, took a bite herself, and smiled. Good. Then she held the spoon toward him. His eyes narrowed. You've lost your mind. She smiled even wider. Maybe. Then the mansion lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. A gunshot echoed from somewhere inside the house. The sound of shattering glass ripped through the darkness. Down! Naledi shouted. Without thinking, she lunged toward Kang Tae-jun's wheelchair and shoved it sideways just as another gunshot exploded through the room. The bullet tore through the wall where his head had been a second earlier. The hallway erupted into chaos. Protect the boss. Seal every exit. Find the shooter. Bodyguards rushed in with flashlights and pistols drawn. Tae-jun grabbed the armrest tightly. Who told you to move me? Naledi stared at him in disbelief. I just saved your life. I didn't ask you to. She folded her arms. You're welcome. For a split second, Min-hyuk almost laughed before catching himself. The emergency generator hummed to life, and the lights flickered back on. One of the guards ran into the room, breathing hard. The sniper escaped. How? Min-hyuk barked. The west wall. Whoever it was knew exactly where the cameras couldn't see. Tae-jun's face hardened. Again. Naledi looked at him. Again. He looked away. This isn't the first attempt. She studied his expression. There was no fear, only exhaustion. As everyone rushed around searching the mansion, Naledi quietly noticed something strange. The bedroom window was only slightly open. No broken lock, no forced entry. Someone had opened it from the inside. An hour later, the mansion settled into an uneasy silence. The doctor finished examining Tae-jun. No injuries. I told you I wasn't hit. The doctor nodded. You were lucky. Tae-jun glanced toward Naledi. No. His voice was unusually calm. I wasn't lucky. Naledi looked up from cleaning the broken glass. He quickly looked away before she could read his expression. The doctor packed his bag and left. Min-hyuk dismissed everyone except Naledi. I need every employee gathered in the dining hall. One guard frowned. Even the kitchen staff. Everyone. Naledi watched them leave. You think someone inside helped the sniper? Min-hyuk looked at her. You figured that out already? She pointed toward the window. No signs of forced entry. Then she pointed toward the security monitor mounted on the wall. Whoever planned tonight knew exactly when the cameras went offline. She met Min-hyuk's eyes. That isn't beginner's luck. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The entire household stood nervously in the dining hall. More than 30 employees. Maids, drivers, chefs, gardeners, security. Nobody spoke. Tae-jun rolled himself into the room. Even in a wheelchair, his presence silenced everyone. His voice was ice. The person who tried to kill me tonight is standing somewhere in this room. Several workers gasped. One maid burst into tears. I swear it wasn't me. Another servant dropped to his knees. We've served your family for years. Tae-jun remained expressionless. If you're innocent, his eyes swept across the room. You have nothing to fear. Naledi stood quietly near the doorway, watching faces instead of listening to words. Fear looked different on everyone. Some people trembled. Some avoided eye contact. Some cried. But one man, the assistant gardener, he wasn't nervous. He was watching everyone else. She quietly memorized his face. Later that night, Naledi carried a tray into Tae-jun's room. He hadn't touched dinner. Again. She sighed dramatically. You know, you're making my job very difficult. I didn't hire you. No. She placed the tray on the table, but someone smart did. He almost rolled his eyes. You talk too much. My grandmother said silence lets the wrong thoughts grow. I like silence. I noticed. She sat across from him without asking permission. He frowned. What are you doing? Eating. You have your own room. I do. Then go there. I don't like eating alone. She picked up a piece of fruit. You can keep being stubborn while I enjoy your expensive apples. He stared at her. You're impossible. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. I accepted it anyway. For the first time in months, the corner of Tae-jun's mouth twitched. It wasn't exactly a smile, but it was close. Naledi caught it. There it is. His face instantly became serious again. There what is? A human. I've always been human. I wasn't completely convinced. He shook his head. You're unlike anyone I've ever met. I get that a lot. A quiet knock interrupted them. Min-hyuk entered. We found something. Tae-jun's expression changed immediately. What? The bullet. And? It wasn't meant to kill. Naledi looked confused. What do you mean? Min-hyuk placed the damaged bullet on the table. Our weapons expert examined it. He looked directly at Tae-jun. The angle was wrong. Tae-jun frowned. So? The shooter is highly trained. He paused. He missed on purpose. Silence. Naledi slowly stood. That makes no sense. Min-hyuk nodded. Exactly. If they wanted him dead. She looked at the bullet. Why miss? Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. The following morning, Naledi pushed Tae-jun's wheelchair into the mansion's private garden. I never agreed to this. She kept walking. Fresh air. I don't need it. Everyone needs it. I hate gardens. You hate everything. I don't hate everything. She smiled. Name 3 things you like. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. She laughed. I'll wait. Finally he muttered, coffee. Good. Rain. That's 2. He looked away. My mother. Naledi's smile softened. She passed away. He nodded once. 5 years ago. I'm sorry. He shrugged as though it didn't matter. But it clearly did. Before she could say anything else, an elderly groundskeeper walked over carrying a watering can. He bowed respectfully. Good morning, Chairman. Tae-jun nodded politely. The old man smiled at Naledi. You must be the new caregiver. I am. He chuckled. I haven't seen him outside in months. Naledi grinned proudly. See? She looked at Tae-jun. Progress. The old man walked away. Tae-jun quietly watched him. He worked for my father. He seems nice. He is. So you don't hate everyone. He sighed. I don't know why I keep talking to you. Because I'm charming. That's not it. No? He looked straight ahead. It's quieter in my head when you're around. Naledi froze. She hadn't expected honesty. Neither had he. He immediately cleared his throat. Forget I said that. Too late. Hidden behind a line of trees, someone lowered a camera. Click. Click. Several photographs captured Tae-jun sitting beside Naledi. The photographer smiled beneath a black cap. They're getting close. A message was sent immediately. Phase 2 begins today. An hour later, Naledi returned to the mansion alone to fetch Tae-jun's medication from the medical room. As she opened the cabinet, something felt wrong. The medicine bottles were arranged differently than before. She frowned. I could have sworn. She picked up one bottle. The seal looked untouched. Still, something bothered her. Just as she turned to leave, she heard soft footsteps behind her. She spun around. Nobody. The hallway was empty. She stepped outside. The door slowly creaked shut behind her. Then, from inside the medical room, a faint click echoed. A timer had started. Naledi stopped mid-step. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong. She reached for the doorknob. Locked. That's strange. She knocked. No answer. Then she heard it again. Click. 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 A slow, mechanical sound. Her eyes widened. Min-hyuk! She shouted. Her voice echoed through the hallway. 2 guards came running. What happened? I need this door open now. One guard pulled out a keycard. The lock flashed red. It isn't responding. Move. The second guard rammed his shoulder against the door. Nothing. Naledi pressed her ear against the wood. The clicking was getting faster. She took a step back. Everyone move away from the door. The guards barely reacted before she grabbed one of them by the arm and yanked him backward. A deafening explosion ripped through the medical room. The blast shattered the door and sprayed splinters across the hallway. Smoke poured into the corridor. Fire alarms began screaming. What happened? Fire! Protect the boss. Staff members ran in every direction. Naledi ignored the chaos and rushed through the smoke. Are you crazy? One guard yelled. There could be another explosion. She covered her mouth with her sleeve and searched the burning room. The medicine cabinet had been blown apart. Glass bottles littered the floor. Someone had planted an explosive where Tae-jun's medication was stored. A pair of gloved footprints led toward the emergency exit. She crouched beside them. They're fresh. A guard looked confused. You can tell? They melted the dust. She pointed toward the open exit. They're still inside the estate. The guards immediately sprinted after the trail. Upstairs, Tae-jun heard the alarms and wheeled himself toward the bedroom door. Before he could leave, Naledi burst into the room, coughing from the smoke. Are you hurt? He blinked. You ran all the way here. She checked his arms, shoulders, and face. Answer me. I'm fine. Only after hearing those words did she finally breathe normally. Tae-jun looked at her soot-covered face. You could have died. So could you. I wasn't near the explosion. It was your medicine. His expression darkened instantly. My medicine? She nodded. They planted the bomb inside the cabinet. Silence filled the room. He slowly looked toward Min-hyuk, who had just entered. It wasn't random. Min-hyuk nodded grimly. They wanted to destroy your medication, or kill whoever came to get it. Naledi folded her arms. So the question is, she looked at both men. Were they trying to kill him? She pointed at Tae-jun. Or me? Neither man answered, because both possibilities were terrifying. That evening, the mansion felt different. Nobody laughed. Nobody relaxed. Every employee was searched before entering or leaving. Additional guards surrounded the estate. Naledi stood on the balcony watching the rain fall. Tae-jun quietly rolled beside her. You should be packing. She didn't look at him. Why? You've become a target. I noticed. You can still leave. She smiled faintly. She smiled faintly. Is that an order? No. A request? He hesitated. Yes. She finally turned toward him. Are you worried about me? I'm worried about unnecessary casualties. She laughed. You almost sounded caring. I wasn't. Liar. He sighed. You barely know me. I know enough. You know the version everyone sees. No. She shook her head. I know the man who secretly thanks every employee after they leave his room. His eyes widened. I heard you. You weren't supposed to. You weren't supposed to. I also know you donate money anonymously to children's hospitals. His expression became unreadable. Who told you that? No one. She reached into her pocket and produced a receipt she'd found while organizing his desk. You forgot to shred this. He stared at the paper. I wasn't hiding it. You were. He looked away. I don't like people expecting gratitude. Naledi smiled softly. You pretend to be heartless. It's easier. For who? He had no answer. Meanwhile, deep beneath the mansion, the masked figure slammed a fist onto a desk. How did she survive? A nervous voice answered through the phone. She sensed the bomb before it exploded. Impossible. It happened. The masked figure paced the room. She's becoming a problem. What are your orders? A long silence followed. Then came the cold reply. If we can't remove the caregiver, the figure picked up a photograph of Naledi. We'll make the boss remove her himself. The next morning began peacefully. Too peacefully. Naledi prepared Tae-jun's breakfast while humming another African song. One maid smiled. I've never seen this kitchen so lively. Another whispered. The boss hasn't shouted once today. Before Naledi could answer, one of the guards rushed inside. Miss Dlamini. What? Someone's here asking for you. For me? She frowned. I don't know anyone in Korea. Outside the mansion gates stood a young man holding flowers. He waved excitedly. Naledi. She blinked. David? He laughed. I finally found you. She hurried toward him. What are you doing here? I got transferred to Seoul. He opened his arms. She hugged him warmly. From the upstairs window, Tae-jun watched everything. His face remained expressionless, but his grip tightened around the wheelchair. Min-hyuk quietly observed him. You know him? No. He seems happy to see her. Tae-jun said nothing. Down below, David handed Naledi the bouquet. I've missed you. She laughed. You still buy terrible flowers. They were expensive. They're still terrible. The two laughed together. Inside the mansion, several maids exchanged knowing smiles. I didn't know Miss Naledi had a boyfriend. Another nodded. They looked perfect together. Unfortunately, someone else heard those words. Tae-jun quietly turned his wheelchair around. Cancel today's therapy. Min-hyuk frowned. You've never willingly skipped therapy. I said cancel it. He rolled back into his room and shut the door. An hour later, Naledi knocked gently. Tae-jun? No response. She entered anyway. He sat by the window. You skipped therapy. I'm tired. She walked closer. No. You were fine this morning. He remained silent. She noticed the untouched breakfast. Again. You didn't eat. I'm not hungry. She sighed dramatically. We're back to this? I'd like to be alone. She crossed her arms. Did I do something? No. Then why are you acting like yesterday never happened? His jaw tightened. You have visitors. So? You should spend time with them. I already did. Silence. Then Naledi's eyes narrowed. She suddenly smiled. Oh, he frowned. Oh what? You're jealous. His head snapped toward her. I beg your pardon? She tried not to laugh. You're jealous. I don't get jealous. Really? No. She stepped closer. Then why did you cancel therapy 5 minutes after seeing me hug David? His ears turned slightly red. I canceled because I wasn't feeling well. Liar. I don't lie. You do. He looked away. I don't. She leaned forward until he had no choice but to look at her. You like me. I don't. You do. I don't. She smiled mischievously. Prove it. Before he could answer, the mansion's front gate exploded inward. The blast shook every window. Gunfire erupted outside as black SUVs stormed through the entrance. One terrified guard screamed through the radio. They're inside! Another voice followed immediately. They're not here to kill the boss. A pause. They're here for Miss Naledi. The sound of automatic gunfire echoed through the mansion. Protect Miss Naledi, Min Hyuk shouted into his radio. The bodyguards moved instantly, surrounding her. Naledi looked stunned. Why are they after me? No one answered. Another explosion shattered the front fountain. Masked men poured through the smoke, firing toward the guards. The mansion became a battlefield. Tae-jun's eyes narrowed. Get her out of here. Naledi shook her head. I'm not leaving you. His voice became firm. That wasn't a suggestion. I'm not abandoning you. One of the guards yelled. They're breaking through the east wing. Min Hyuk drew his pistol. I'll hold them off. No, Tae-jun said calmly. They aren't here to destroy the mansion. He looked directly at Naledi. They're trying to force us apart. She stared at him. What? They know you're my weakness. Before she could respond, 2 masked attackers burst into the hallway. The first raised his rifle. Everything happened in seconds. Tae-jun grabbed the decorative metal cane beside his wheelchair and hurled it with surprising accuracy. The attacker stumbled just enough for Min Hyuk to fire. The second man rushed toward Naledi. She ducked, grabbed a heavy flower vase, and smashed it against his shoulder. You picked the wrong caregiver, she shouted. He staggered backward. A guard tackled him to the floor. More gunfire erupted downstairs. The mansion shook again. Naledi looked at Tae-jun. We have to move. He nodded once. Take me to the safe room. She gripped the wheelchair handles and sprinted down the hallway while bullets struck the walls behind them. You push fast, Tae-jun muttered. You can compliment me later. I'm not complimenting you. You practically did. Even in the middle of chaos, she made him shake his head. When they reached the hidden elevator, Min Hyuk appeared, breathing heavily. The attackers are splitting up. How many? Tae-jun asked. Too many. The elevator doors opened. Before anyone stepped inside, a familiar voice echoed through the corridor. No one move. Everyone froze. The assistant gardener stepped from the shadows. The same man Naledi had noticed on her first day. Except now, he held a pistol aimed directly at Tae-jun. The elderly groundskeeper, who had worked for Tae-jun's family for decades, stood behind him with tears in his eyes. You, Tae-jun said quietly. The assistant gardener smiled. You finally recognize me. Naledi frowned. You're the traitor. I've been waiting years for this moment. The old groundskeeper spoke with a trembling voice. Don't do this, son. The younger man shoved him aside. Stay out of this. Naledi's heart skipped a beat. Son? The old man lowered his head in shame. He's my boy. The hallway fell silent. The assistant gardener laughed bitterly. My father spent 35 years serving this family. He pointed the gun at Tae-jun, and when my mother needed surgery, his voice cracked. Your uncle refused to help. The old man closed his eyes. I begged them. They let her die. He looked at Tae-jun with burning hatred. So I spent years earning your trust. Tae-jun remained calm. My uncle made many enemies. He made widows. He also died paying for his crimes. The young man's expression faltered. Tae-jun continued. I took over this organization because I wanted to end the things he started. Liar. I've been funding hospitals, orphanages, and victim compensation for 5 years. Naledi looked at him. So that's why. He nodded slightly. I couldn't change the past. He looked back at the gunman, but I tried to change the future. The assistant gardener hesitated. For the first time, doubt crossed his face. Then a voice shouted from behind, "Don't listen to him." A masked man appeared at the end of the hallway. Without warning, he fired. The bullet wasn't aimed at Tae-jun. It was aimed at the assistant gardener. The young man looked down in shock as blood spread across his shirt. You. The masked shooter lowered his weapon. You knew too much. Before he could fire again, Min-hyuk's shot echoed through the hallway. The masked man collapsed instantly. The remaining attackers fled. The battle was over. Naledi rushed to the wounded gardener. Stay with us. He coughed weakly. I never wanted innocent people hurt. His father fell to his knees beside him, holding his hand. I'm here. I'm sorry, Dad. Tears streamed down the old man's face. You came back. I should have listened to you. He turned toward Tae-jun. They lied to me. His breathing became shallow. They told me you were just like your uncle. Tae-jun quietly rolled closer. No. He gently placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. I'm nothing like him. The young man smiled sadly. I know. Those were his last words. The old groundskeeper broke down in tears. Several weeks later, peace slowly returned to the mansion. The damaged walls were repaired. The security team was rebuilt. The laughter that Naledi had brought never disappeared. One bright afternoon, she stood in the garden watching Tae-jun struggle through another round of physical therapy. One more step, she encouraged. I can't. Yes, you can. My legs, they're stronger than they were yesterday. He gritted his teeth. Sweat rolled down his face. With trembling determination, he shifted his weight. Then, another step, followed by another. Min-hyuk smiled proudly. He did it. The staff burst into applause. Tae-jun looked down in disbelief. Naledi wiped away happy tears. I told you. He slowly turned toward her. You never gave up. No. Even when I was impossible. You were impossible. A small laugh escaped him. The first genuine laugh anyone had heard in nearly a year. He walked one final step before losing his balance. Naledi caught him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He looked into her eyes. When you arrived, his voice softened. I thought you were the biggest mistake my men had ever made. She laughed. I remember. I was wrong. She smiled. I know. He reached into his pocket and removed a small velvet box. Naledi blinked. What are you doing? I've faced armed enemies without fear. He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring. But asking you this, he smiled nervously, is somehow harder. The staff watched in complete silence. Naledi Dlamini. He took a slow breath. You taught me that strength isn't measured by how many people fear you. His eyes glistened. It's measured by how many lives you choose to protect. He swallowed hard. You gave me back my family. You gave me back hope. And somehow, he smiled. He smiled. You gave me back my legs. He extended the ring. Will you spend the rest of your life reminding me to eat, arguing with me, and filling every room with music? Naledi laughed through tears. You forgot one thing. What? She leaned closer. "I'll also keep winning every argument." The staff laughed. Tae-jun chuckled. "I suppose I'll have to accept that." She nodded. "Good." Then she wrapped her arms around him. Yes. The entire mansion erupted into cheers. Even Min-hyuk smiled. Months later, the once silent mansion had become a place filled with laughter, music, and family dinners. The man who had ruled through fear learned that true loyalty could never be demanded. It had to be earned. And the woman who arrived with 2 worn suitcases and an unstoppable spirit discovered that sometimes the greatest healing doesn't come from medicine, but from refusing to give up on someone the world had already written off. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who loves emotional Afro-Korean dramas. Also, tell us in the comments, at what moment did you realize Tae-jun had truly fallen in love with Naledi? We'd love to read your thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.